Alright y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we are reviewing another product from Agilite. You guys already know we've checked out a lot of Agilite products on the channel, but this one is an interesting one. It's not a plate carrier, it's not a pouch or anything. This is actually a sling. So Agilite is getting into the sling game. So I kind of give you guys a little bit of a look. This is the Re-Flex3D sling, and gotta say, I mean, it looks sick, especially like with the scorpion you have there. This is a very cool design. I mean, you got like, you have a lot of features that you'll see on plenty of other slings on the market, but the biggest selling point for this one is the whole thing is pretty much made of a sort of like elastic material. So you have a lot of rigidity when you need it, but you also have a little bit of flex when you need that as well, which is really cool. And I kind of talk about certain circumstances where that could absolutely be helpful. And it's definitely been helpful in kind of my testing so far. Now real quick, as far as my background with slings, I have used slings on weapons since I was probably like 14 years old. I've used plenty of slings in the Marine Corps. I've used plenty of slings in the Army. I've used plenty of slings in airsoft. Yeah, I've used a lot of different types of slings. So I know like what I prefer in the sling, what I really dislike in the sling, as well as why certain features on slings are helpful in certain applications. Again, a lot of my kind of experience is talking from the CQB aspect, because I spent a lot of time on a CQB team. I went through the Marine Corps close quarter battle school, and yeah, I derive a lot of my sort of experience from that, because gear that generally works well in a close quarters battle environment works pretty well in a conventional infantry aspect, give or take, you know, the level of protection as well as other things as far as, you know, if you need a sidearm or not. But outside of that, I'm also driving my experience from the conventional infantry in the Marines and the Army, as well as reconnaissance in the Army. So I kind of understand good features, but the importance of a comfortable sling, and definitely the importance of a reliable sling, because I've had equipment fail and it was not fun, but at the same time, I've been in positions where if my equipment did fail, it would have been a really bad time. So some of those examples right off the bat, this was a very popular sling in the Marine Corps, and this is the Blue Force Gear Vickers sling. So pretty much it's just very kind of tough, thick sort of webbing material. You have the kind of pull adjustment. This is a feature that you'll see in pretty much all modern day slings. I mean, you'll see them all over the place. Magpul, Ferro Concepts, Blue Force Gear. This is, I would say, almost a necessity if you're trying to compete with the market when it comes to like an all-purpose type of sling. This is definitely something that you want to see. But yeah, it's a pretty bare bones sling. You have your adjustment points where you need them, and it's very tough. This thing probably won't break on you. It's probably gonna last a very long time. Hardware is solid. So definitely a reliable sling. However, definitely some limitations when it comes to it. Again, not having any sort of flex material or anything. You'll notice when you're trying to get in certain positions and your sling just gets snagged somewhere, if you don't have any of that extra give, I mean, you're pretty much just getting wrapped up in it. And it's very unforgiving and just unflexing, I guess. Now, other slings, I mean, you'll see a bunch of crazy stuff. You'll see stuff like this. This is kind of like a 1-point, sort of really minimalistic, sort of bungee, like usually like an SMG or a machine pistol kind of sling. So very kind of bungee. So if you're kind of working more in a concealed environment and you need to get this thing into some weird spots or out of some weird spots, this thing's gonna work pretty well. But yeah, you're not gonna be doing any patrols with this thing. You're not gonna be kind of like maneuvering through the woods, getting in the prone really. So yeah, it's kind of limited in what it can do. Now, kind of a combination of both of those is we have another sling from Blue Force. This one's cool because it's kind of like a combination of both of those. So you have kind of like that webbing material here, but then you also have kind of like the bungee aspect as well. But again, this is a 1-point, so it's kind of made for smaller weapons, secondary weapons, things of that nature. I have tried using a 1-point specifically in a bunch of different kind of settings, specifically with CQB, but it's a pain in the butt when you're trying to kind of like keep your weapon in place whether it be like fast roping or kind of rappelling. Keeping the weapon in place is essentially impossible. You'll have it kind of doing all of this thing. This weapon's clear, so don't be trying to freak out. So you'll have it doing this thing. Even if you run out of ammo on your primary and you're kind of switching to your secondary, you'll have this thing kind of moving all around like this, especially if you're having to like walk and shoot. You'll have this thing moving around a lot, and it gets pretty distracting, pretty annoying as well. And then this is a sling. So you'll see this kind of in a few configurations, but this is it's all twisted up. This is a Faro Concept Slingster. So very nice sling. Definitely my favorite prior to testing other slings out, specifically talking about the Agilite one. This is a very solid sling, very minimalistic. You got the padding kind of where you needed. You don't really have any sort of flex to this at all. You kind of just, the saving grace with it is it's very minimalistic, it's tough, and then you also have, again, a nice kind of like adjustment right there. So I had this on my P90 specifically. And yeah, with all these slings, you can use quick detach mounts or QD mounts. And that's kind of what the Agilite Re-Flex3D comes with. You can kind of see here, you have those quick detach. So outside of the hardware, I kind of go over what this actually comes with, but we'll kind of, again, talk about what separates this sling from the other slings and explain why these features are helpful in certain situations. Okay, so sort of starting at the bottom here. So again, it comes with 2 quick detach mounts, and I gotta say, these are actually pretty solid. Let me get this in focus real quick. These are actually really solid QD mounts. So you can see it's got basically like this knurling all around, which is kind of nice. Just again, if you're trying to, sometimes if you get it really sandy or something, it'll get pretty stuck. So having a little bit of grip is kind of nice there. But then you have those detents. You got your button here, which will release the detents. And yeah, it works totally fine. Haven't had any issues with this thing. This specifically is a very cheap, quick detach mount. I figured if it works with this, it'll work well with my others. I've tested it with 3 other quick detach mounts, and I haven't had any issues kind of pulling on it. It didn't come undone or anything like that. Now you can see you have your adjustments, you have your buckles as well. Then looking at the actual hardware, so you can see here you have buckle, and then you have what they call the scorpion tail for the quick adjustment. Then you have so these are actually all stainless steel kind of buckles. All the hardware stainless steel with a ceramic coating, which is nice because you can kind of feel it. It's very kind of like I wouldn't say slick, so you're not going to have anything kind of like adjusting itself when you're not expecting to. But when it comes to like, you know, mud or sand or dirt or anything like that, when it gets on those buckles of hardware, it's not going to stick. It'll pretty much fall off, and you're not going to have to worry about these basically getting gummed up or anything. And then we have what they call the scorpion tail there, which is pretty cool. You know, Agilite's logo is the scorpion, so you have that scorpion tail for those quick adjustments. And you can see here, like sometimes with some slings, you'll have to almost put like pressure on it to make it taut and then adjust it. But you can see here, just like not putting any sort of pressure, it adjusts very, very easily. When it's like this, oh my God, earthquake. When it's like this, you can see here, it's not adjusting itself or anything crazy when I don't want it to. So yeah, that's really nice, really smooth. I've noticed with the Faro Concepts at times, you can see here, it's basically got these teeth on the bottom. And with these teeth, sometimes you will have snags. So let's see here. You also kind of have to like almost break it forward. And if it's not taut right here, sometimes that'll be kind of difficult. So I can adjust it, pulling forward, usually no issues. But sometimes like you have to kind of like break the angle to get the teeth to not be basically applying that pressure. So, I mean, it's good when it's kind of on your body, but again, sometimes if it's not taut or anything, you'll have some issues with adjusting it. And I have not had any issues like that when it comes to this specific sling. Even talking about the Blue Force Vickers sling. So again, I'll kind of grab it here. So generally not taut, but you can feel that there's a lot These are not smooth at all. I mean, you're basically, I mean, if you look at the webbing, it's basically getting all chewed up because you have a lot of friction going on there, and you really need to muscle it sometimes. Oh, earthquake, to get that thing to actually adjust. And with the Agilite sling, no issues at all with that. Again, you don't need it to be taut or anything. I can do it from down here, and then I can do it from up here, no issues. So really, really smooth, very, very solid hardware. Kind of moving up, see that? So you have nylon webbing here, and then you kind of move into the more proprietary design here. So this is like their 3D knit construction, which gives you that flex, but also gives you like a little bit of a shock absorption. And you have some pretty nice cushioning, you can kind of see here. So really, really nice quality when you're talking about the actual material, kind of how everything is put together. Again, with Agilites, their stitching and everything is always top notch. So I'm not really worried about anything kind of coming loose, stitching coming loose. I mean, even like the logo looks very high quality. So this is definitely something, as with other Agilite products, that is not going to fall apart within like a few months. And then you can see here, this specifically, I just have it kind of wrapped around the stock. But again, it does come with another QD or quick detach mount here on the back. So you can use that for a bunch of different weapon setups. Okay, so why is it actually important to have the ability to do the quick adjustments and also have the flex like we do in this sling? So kind of talking about this real quick. So if you were in the infantry or combat arms, or even just kind of in the military in general, you know that most of the time, if you're out in the field, if you're on deployment, and you have to have your weapon on you, or it behooves you to have your weapon on you, as we would say, you're going to have this in more of a tighter sort of configuration. Because if you have your sling all loose when it's kind of on your shoulder, it's just going to be annoying because you don't want it like moving against your feet. You don't want it kind of like moving around extra. So you're going to tighten it up so it's not. And this is kind of set up for a plate carrier, so it's still a little low. But you can see already it's not as loose, it's not as in the way. So generally speaking, it's going to be a lot tighter. Now, it's nice because you don't need to have a sling, or you don't need to adjust your sling for basically combat mode. A lot of times, especially even like before the Vickers sling, when you didn't have this quick adjustment, basically if you were needing to use your weapon, you would immediately just do this because now you have all of this freedom of movement. If you didn't do that and this was really kind of fixed, then you're almost fighting your gear. Even to get it shouldered sometimes, to do reloads, you're almost fighting your gear. So that's pretty much what we had to resort to, is to just throw it around our necks so we can actually like manipulate everything a lot better. But when you have the quick adjustment, you can just loosen it up, and now you can do everything as you need to without having to worry about, adjusting your sling. Because a lot of times, especially if you're on a patrol, generally your stuff's just going to be a little bit looser, kind of ready for it. But let's say you're on a security detail or something like that, and you're kind of standing, especially for me when I was guarding nuclear weapons, we would be on the post for like 8 hours at a time. So if you're just kind of like doing this, again, you don't want to be doing guard with this around your neck because it's going to destroy your neck, or you're just going to have to hold your weapon the whole time, and that gets pretty taxing. When you're doing that for several hours, it gets pretty taxing. So you want to just have this in a comfortable configuration, so it's kind of just resting there. But again, if you do need to use it, you can just quickly adjust it and then get it into the fight, which is an awesome capability. Definitely not something that I will go without. At the same time, even if you're not just like pulling security or something, let's say, for example, you're going to fast rope. So fast roping, we kind of just throw our weapon like this, and then, I hope I'm not hitting the mic too much, but we basically get our weapon out of the way, completely out of the way. You don't want to be doing anything like this even, because if you do this, your weapon still has the potential of swinging to the front and whatnot. You don't want to be messing with that. But you want to kind of stow it back here. And again, if you have a sling that's really loose, even if it's back here, it's still moving around a lot. So you want to sort of cinch that down so it's not moving nearly so much. Again, if you're deploying, you can grab the fast rope. At the same time, if you're working, let's say with like an occupant or something, this is something that I was accustomed to, especially in the recapture tactics team. Let's say you're going through a house, or you're clearing out a certain facility, and you know there's going to be occupants in there, civilians or workers or something, and you're just trying to control them because you're trying to find a threat because there's a potential threat. You know, you had some alarms going off and you're trying to make sure everything is good. So you're going through the house, you're kind of checking everything, you're clearing everything out, and then you have a worker and you want to control them. Like, so hey, get on the ground, come to me, and then you're just going to basically secure them. So I don't want my weapon to be near them because, you know, maybe potentially the bad guy just threw his weapon away, and you know this guy's pretending to be just a worker or what have you. I'm not going to take that chance. I'm not going to have my weapon in front of me. Also, if I'm trying to, like, you know, use flexi cuffs or handcuffs or something, I don't want my weapon kind of getting in the way, especially if you're doing all this kind of stuff. So what you're going to do, you can kind of cinch that tight, throw it around your back, and then you can kind of start working from here. You can start getting the flexi cuffs on, you can start getting the handcuffs on. Even if you need to do aid, you can do something like this. So it's nice to be able to tighten the sling, because again, if it was just a little bit looser, it's still like it's kind of basically hitting me in my ankle, it's hitting me in my feet, and I don't want to be dealing with any of that. I'm already dealing with plenty of stuff right in front of me, so now I can just tighten it up and do all that. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you kind of want that quick adjustment feature. So again, that's kind of like a no-brainer for Agilite. Again, with the experience, that's definitely something they're going to add into this sling. Now again, what really separates this sling from other slings is going to be this kind of 3D knit flex. So you can see here, you have that flex in it. So let me kind of show you guys a little bit better. So you have this flex in it, and it's not a whole lot. Obviously, if you had too much, kind of like the bungees, that's also a pain in the butt too. So again, if I have a bungee sling that's like this, you have a little bit more flex, just because you have kind of all this like kind of bunched up. Now let's say I was using this in a shoot house, or I was on the range even, and I transitioned to my pistol. Now this thing is basically going to be, one, because it's a single point, it's doing this, but also that bungee is going to be kind of like bouncing the weapon a lot more, especially when I'm like walking and whatnot, or if I'm having to go upstairs or what have you, you're going to get a lot more kind of bounce. So there's a fine balance for sure in how much flex you want, and I think they did a really good job with that, because again, you have that rigidity, but you also have a little bit of that flex if you need to. And I'll kind of explain real quick right now why it's helpful to have something like that. So let's say, for example, you know, you are on security or something. Something happens, a target presents itself, and before you even think about it, before you think to like release your sling, you start presenting your weapon and you start engaging, bop, 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 or what have you, whatever. Now I'm in cover, I'm still engaging the targets, and now let's say I have to reload. Because I didn't loosen this up, and now I kind of have tunnel vision, and I just ran out of ammo. I need to do a speed reload. This is very, very urgent. I'm not going to think to kind of loosen my sling up so I can get better access to my magazines. So let's say if I didn't have this sort of flex, when I'm trying to do this, you can see when my arm goes down, the weapon is basically getting pulled because I wouldn't have that flex. But now that I do have that flex, I can stretch the sling down without moving my weapon. So bang, 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 need to reload. I'm kind of reaching at this point where I'd start moving the weapon, but again, because I have that flex, I can keep the weapon oriented towards the threat as I'm pulling out a new magazine, wherever it is. I can have my weapon oriented still towards that threat because of that flex in the sling. Again, if you have something, I'll show you with the Vickers sling specifically. Again, let's say I didn't do that adjustment. I'm engaging. I already feel the restriction on this thing. I'm engaging, bop, 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 and then I need to reload. I got no flex, so I'm doing this, trying to get to it, but you can see I'm immediately pulling my weapon, and my shoulders already starting to get like pretty fatigued, just trying to keep this thing oriented towards the threat as I'm doing that. So I'd have to loosen it up and then I can keep it oriented. But again, having that flex, you're not worried about it getting kind of wrapped up or restricted like that. All right, now we're talking about when we have actual kit on. So you can see here I have the Agilite K0, very, very nice plate carrier. So, okay, I'm throwing this on. Again, this is kind of how it would rest. So I have it more in like the tight configuration. This is pretty much how it would rest. So let's say I'm just kind of like moving around. I have the weapon resting here pretty much on where my magazines would be, and I'm not having to worry about it being like too low, because if it's down here, then I'm just getting a lot of movement and it's just kind of getting in the way. So I'm going to keep it a little bit tighter, keep it up here, and then again when I need to, I can loosen it up and I can start getting to work doing X, Y, and Z. Now, I'm not big on switching shoulders. It's just not something that I've trained enough to be really comfortable with. I've done it, I've trained with it. However, I still feel a little bit more confident just kind of tilting my weapon and finding my way around the corner like that. It really depends on certain circumstances. A lot of times I will still switch, especially if it's not as urgent, or if I'm kind of waiting, I'm more of a defensive position. I kind of have more of a drop on somebody. I can kind of switch shoulders and be kind of resting there as opposed to fighting into cover. But if you do want to switch shoulders, let's say I got it loosened up, so I'm engaging, you'd be switching shoulders like this, and because I have that flex, I can really punch it out. You can see here it's almost springing. I can really punch it out and get it into my shoulder. So kind of see it over here. So because I have that flex, I can get it into the shoulder. Once it's basically over here, you're not really using the flex so much. It's more of a transitional piece for when you're like this. You can push it out and then orient it down like that. So again, having that kind of flex just makes it that much more easier to get it around. Because again, and I'll show you with the Vickers sling, if you don't have that flex, how it can be a little bit of a challenge, kind of with the same sort of sling orientation as I had over there. And you can mitigate a lot of this depending on where you actually place your sling, but I'm just kind of showing you how you can use that flex. Okay, so I'm engaging, trying to switch shoulders on this thing. I can't really punch it out at all, so I just end up doing this thing. So because I can't punch it out, I'm going to need to just take it off, put it around my shoulder, and then I have a little bit more liberty, but again, it's still a little iffy, and I'm just gonna end up choking myself out, which I don't want to do. And you can kind of see here, I mean, it works even better obviously if it's just around the neck. There's pretty much no restriction to get it into the other shoulder there. Up, and then likewise back. But again, you can do it like this because you have that flex that allows it to actually get over. Of course, still you want to play with it a little bit. Generally speaking, if you kind of just punch it down like that, you get a little bit more comfort. But again, it's nice if you need to do that, or if you want to do that, if you're kind of more in a defensive position, or if you're just comfortable kind of being on the offense and doing that kind of quickly. And that's pretty much all the features. Now, kind of just talking about my experience with the comforts, this is definitely a comfortable sling. It's nice to have the padding, especially if you're just going to be kind of chilling like this. Having that padding is nice because if you have kind of even something that's more minimalistic, or you have something like the Vickers sling, you have a lot less surface area, so that pressure is going to get kind of pushed down in a smaller area, and then you just end up getting your traps just decimated. They basically just become knots, and I'm pretty sure I actually have like permanent knots in my traps from pulling security with a Vickers sling for hours and hours at a time. So having that sort of kind of wider area there, but also that kind of padding, and again the bounce makes it a lot more comfortable for like the long-term wear. Now I will say, at first I was getting a little bit of a kind of chafe with the sling itself. I don't know what it is now. I'm not getting it. I think I just have like my skin oil embedded in like the edge of the sling, so I'm not really feeling it anymore. But yeah, at first when I was doing transitions like this, and I'm not sure, maybe it's just like generally speaking, with some slings or some things that kind of have like that elasticity, you kind of feel that like rubber grip. It's not really the case with this sling. You don't have anything like that. But I will say the edge did feel a little bit kind of grippy, or not really abrasive. It was catching. It's not the case anymore, but when I was doing more transition drills, kind of like that, you can see when you throw the rifle out of the way, it ends up falling on your neck. Even if you have like a combat top or what have you, when you do that, it just ends up kind of moving onto your neck there. And if you do that a few times, you're going to get quite a bit of a sort of rash on your neck if you have an uncomfortable sling. But again, I haven't really felt that. I think the first day I was using it, I felt that, and it was kind of rubbing my neck raw. But you can kind of, I don't know, I mean, there's not really going to be a mark. My skin's not like that sensitive, but you can see I'm not really getting that anymore when I'm actually doing my transitions with a pistol. So yeah, I was a little bit afraid at first because I was like, oh no, there's like some weird elastic grippy thing that's just kind of like, you know, rubbing my neck a little bit too much, but not the case anymore. So crisis averted for sure on that one. So yeah, as far as comforts, this is definitely a very comfortable sling. So again, when you're talking about why you want to buy something, you talk about the features that you want / need, and then you kind of move out from there. What is a nice thing to have? What's kind of like a luxury feature? Things that just kind of help for those creature comforts, as far as like the long-term comfort, or you know, potentially like a feature that allows it to work or turn into like a one-point sling, work with more kind of firearms. Then you can start branching off and looking at things like that. So this, compared to other slings that I've used, like the Vickers sling or the Faro Concepts Slingster, it's just better, again, because you have that nice comfortable padding. You have that flex when you need it, and it is nice to have it, but it's not a distraction, it's not a hindrance, it's not moving or flexing too much. You still have that rigidity, which is awesome in a sling. And with Agilites, again, the stitching is great, so you just have a lot of those things considered. You're not going to have to worry about the long-term durability. Again, those buckles have that ceramic coating, which makes it a lot nicer as far as like when you're talking about dealing with the weather or different environments. You're not going to have that stainless steel get like super jacked up, and you're not going to have stuff basically getting in and kicking up those buckles as much. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions on this sling compared to other slings that I've used, or maybe how it might work with certain positions or even certain weapons, I'm more than willing to throw on my kit, grab some of my weapons, and do some stuff inside the house just to kind of help you guys out. So if you have any questions like that, definitely let me know down in the comment section. I'll try and answer all of them. But again, huge thanks to Agilite, not just for providing the product to me, but just, again, for innovating the market so much. I mean, we've had so many products coming from Agilite, and they really just continue to innovate. And it's encouraging, because you will kind of have these dry spells where people just aren't doing anything different. So Agilite, especially recently, has been doing a fantastic job making sure that is not the case. But of course, if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know down in the comment section. Hopefully this video was kind of informative. Hopefully it was applicable to y'all as well. But yeah, let me know down in the comment section. If you guys want to see more gear reviews, definitely feel free to check out the channel. I have a playlist, which I need to add some videos to as well, but that goes over some of my gear reviews as well. You guys can try and check out some stuff there if you're in the market looking for specific things. But that is it for this video. I'll see y'all in the next one.